Mr. Moderator, we are live. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, madam. Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everyone present today. I am Dominic Taga Idris, your moderator for today's session, hosted by Women Ascension. Please do well to introduce yourself in the chat and let us know where you're joining in from. So, for those who are new to Women Ascension, I would like to introduce our organization to you. Women Ascension is a global initiative built on the belief that empowered women can transform communities, industries, and futures. With presence in over 134 countries and a multidisciplinary structure spanning 10 departments from STEM and climate action to peace building and media. It offers a space where women from all walks of life can lead, learn, and lift others. At its heart, Women Ascension isn't just about leadership, it's about belonging. It's about creating pathways for women to step into their potential while staying grounded in empathy, collaboration, and service. Our topic for today's session is trauma-informed care, strategies for monitoring and healing children after abuse, with focus on advocating for children's well-being. This is such an essential discussion because understanding trauma and knowing how to respond with empathy and care can transform a child's recovery journey. Now, I would like to introduce
Ms. Puri, please take the floor.
Okay, ma'am. I'll just continue from where he left off. And I'd like to introduce our mentor for today, Madam Z. Root, who will share her knowledge on this topic. Madam Root is a psychologist and the vision bearer of the Rooty Counseling Center. Her work centers on healing and resilience for children, women, and families who have experienced trauma, displacement, and violence. She provides individual counseling, group therapy, and play therapy to help children process their experiences and rebuild emotional strength. As we get started, please keep your mics muted and use the chat box for questions and thoughts. We'll have times for discussions right after Madam Ruth's presentation. Madam Ruth, we are so glad to have you with us today once more, and the stage is all yours. It's also a pleasure once more to have you on board with us. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session today. I wish to say thank you to Women Ascension for this opportunity, and I pray that as we go through this session, we get to learn and understand and share the knowledge that we're out to do today. So it's really a privilege to be working with us today and to be taking this session. It's going to be an interactive session, and do well to keep your questions. You can write them somewhere. You can keep them in your book so that at the end of the presentation, you can give your contributions and your questions. Everything is welcome. So thank you very much for this opportunity. We'll go right away into our presentation of today. Sorry, the screen. Oh. What's happening? You can hear me? My screen just stopped sharing. Please, a
We
minute,
can
let me
see your
share the
screen.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so today we'll be looking at trauma-informed care and the strategies for monitoring, healing children after and after abuse, and also advocating for children. The first thing we'll be
Hey,
trying to understand. Can you hear me, please?
You're
Yes.
yes,
breaking
we
a
can
lot,
hear you.
ma.
Oh, it's surely network. Sorry about that. We'll just see how to manage that. My network is not very stable. Oh, it's disconnected. Orange. Internet is not doing well.
Ma'am, now it's better. We are able to hear you. Just in case there is network issue, so that I guess if turning off the video would help it, if it is visible for you.
Uh, okay. Okay. So continue my control. I cannot handle it from this end. We'll be looking at the objectives of this session. It is to enhance trauma-informed care, strategies for monitoring and healing children after abuse, then advocating for children's well-being. So those are the basic objectives of this, our session today. Now, what is trauma? What is trauma? We will be looking at trauma from the perspective of the World Health Organization. And World Health Organization recognizes trauma as a serious disaster, abuse, and displacement. In our current world today, we have a lot of conflicts going on in many countries. We have internal conflict, we have external conflict. We also have natural disasters that are occurring in many other places. We also have abuses at the level of the homes. We have abuses. It leads to a lot of displacement. So with all this, it causes trauma. So World Health Organization has recognized trauma as a serious public health issue that needs to be handled and taken care of very seriously. Else it's going to be so disastrous in the near future. So looking at the definition of response to a deeply distressing or disturbing event that overwhelms an individual's ability to cope, often leaving lasting effects on the mental, emotional, and even physical health. So what trauma does to somebody is that it has gone through a terrifying situation or through an abuse, was experienced, or has been in a community that has faced disaster or conflict that bears to get the consequences, which can be mentally or emotional or physical. And if care is not taken about it, or if it is not, will not be able to relate well. They will not be able to cope. So we are looking at trauma from the ability of someone who is not able, an individual who is not able to cope with the overwhelming situations and the happenings around that individual. So that is what we call trauma. So what are the impacts of trauma according to World Health Organization? We have into a distressing when you experience a terrifying situation. Maybe you've lost your loved one, maybe your properties have been destroyed, or maybe you witness a traumatic scene, a scene that was very traumatic, it may lead to post-traumatic stress disorder. We all know that post-traumatic stress disorder comes after when someone has experienced a trauma. So you may get into a post-traumatic disorder, which needs to be managed with care. You can also get into depression after experiencing trauma, and also an individual can get into substance abuse. You begin to consume drugs because you've gotten into a trauma and you're unable to manage that situation on, and maybe that individual decides that, okay, the best way for me to handle this situation is maybe get into drugs. I will not be able to think about what happened to me. I don't want to think about my predicament. I don't want to think about the disaster that has happened to me. Anything that has happened to me that is so terrifying, I don't want to think about it. So that is why most people get into drugs, to clear the trauma that they are going through. Meanwhile, that is not the solution, because when you take drugs and the moment those drugs expire from your system, you get back into that trauma, or you launch into a post-traumatic stress disorder, or you go into depression. So, but most people today, because of trauma, because they've experienced trauma, they can get into substance abuse. They can also get into social isolation. You find individuals who don't want to relate with other persons, they don't want to relate with their family members, not even able to explain what is going through them. And so the best thing they decide to do is to get into isolation, because they don't want to talk to somebody. Another thing that happens, or another impact of trauma, is impaired relationship and functioning. We have increased risk of suicide. When somebody gets into trauma, that person normally will have this impaired relationship. They will not be able to relate well with the people around them, with the society, because they don't see the society as a safe place. They don't see the community, especially when that situation happened, maybe in the family or maybe in the community where they live. They find that they see that they don't see it as a safe place, so it gets difficult, and it is difficult for them to just relate with people. Please just keep your questions. You can write them down. I see people already asking questions. Just write them down, maybe in your books, so that at the end of the session, we'll go through it. Thank you very much. So increased risk of suicide. Someone who has gone through trauma is that is going through their mind. They have a lot that is disturbing them. They have a lot that they are unable to manage. They have a lot that they cannot even explain to the people around them. First of all, someone who has experienced trauma does not, first of all, feel safe in the environment, does not feel like talking to anybody, does not feel like relating to anybody. So at the end of the day, the result in getting into suicide, committing suicide, killing themselves, taking away their lives, because they feel that that is the best way to handle or impact of trauma, what trauma can cause at the end of the day if it is not well handled. We see that the consequences are so many, and it leads to so many impairments to people when they get into it. So it has to be properly managed, and when it is not properly managed,
Ma'am, I guess we lost you. And the participants, please keep your questions for the last, so it might distract the speaker during the presentation. Uh, and kindly be patient since there are some technical issues from speaker side. Thank you.
Hello. Please, yeah, I've just seen a question in the chat that I would like to contribute while we're waiting for Mentor Ruth. Um, Maria is asking that could you explain the risk of suicide other than just physical harm to oneself, the thoughts behind suicides or attempts that are unnoticeable? So I'm Chiamu Seraphine from Cameroon, and I'm a lived experience of suicidal ideation. So if I can contribute to this question, apart from the physical aspect of it, it's quite vivid that during those very dark moments, some of the thoughts in my mind were, for example, if I'm traveling, say in a public transport, I don't care if an accident happens or not. So those were the suicidal thoughts. And at the same time, with those thoughts, I was like, but I'm in this bus with people. How, if such a thing happen, other people are going to die. So you don't just care about whatsoever can happen to you, and you even wish it. So I think those are some of the non-physical aspects of suicidal thoughts. That's just an example. And the fact that you can also just stay without proper nutrition. I think those are all things that can seriously lead someone to some conditions that can be referred to as really suicidal. You just decide that whatsoever happens to you, you don't care. So just my
Thank you,
little
Mr.
contribution to Maria.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes. Thank you so much, Mr. Amo, for handling over with the glitches. And our speaker is here. I hope, ma'am, you're audible.
Okay,
We are
can you
able
hear
to
me,
see your
please?
yes, we are clearly able to hear you, and
Okay,
you can proceed, ma'am.
okay. Sorry about my network. I just split that when it kicks me out, we will just see how to manage it, all of us, please. And thank you, Madam Seraphine, for coming in and handling that question. I appreciate. Okay, we'll continue with the signs of childhood trauma. The first sign of childhood trauma is emotional and behavioral sign. We have anxiety, we have excessive worry, we have depression and persistent sadness, anger and aggression, irritability and mood swings. So when you see a child who is expressing worry, the child who gets angry often, the child who is easily irritated, a child who is aggressive, a child who has mood swings and persistent sadness. Those are signs of trauma. It means that that child is actually experiencing something and the child has not been able to say it to somebody that he or she can be helped to get out of that situation. So when you see a child who is expressing all of this, maybe just worried about the situations that are happening around the child, just being sad, maybe like you come to a child-friendly space, you just notice that this child is always sad. This child does not relate with other children. He doesn't play with other kids. He doesn't do anything with other children. It shows that there is a problem with that child, and you as a child protection worker, you need to get closer to that child and make sure that you understand what is actually going through that child. You talk with the child to understand the child's situation, because if you don't get closer to the child to understand the child's situation, the child is going to live with these emotional challenges and these emotional difficulties, and at the end of the day, it will not help the child. It would only help the child to lead maybe into suicide, into depression, into many other things. So we need to be very careful, especially when we are working with children. We also have the cognitive sign. We have impaired concentration and memory. We have disorientation or confusion, poor decision-making skills, negative self-perception. We have situations where you see a child saying that I am not up to his or herself, and says that this thing is for a particular set of people to do, because the child is saying that he has not reached or attained that level of doing what other children are doing. That is the negative self-perception that children grow with, and that because of the trauma that they faced, be it from the home, because sometimes the perpetrators are the parents, they are the caregivers, they are the ones who've caused the child to go into trauma, they are the ones who have maybe initiated or caused the child to feel that the child is less or the child is worthless. And when they keep saying that to the child, maybe a child who is coming from a home where there is a kind of constant insults being thrown on the child, or the child or they speak negative words to the child always, the child has already understood the only language the child knows is negativity. So each time you see that child, the only thing he or she talks about, they are just negative thoughts. The child says just negative things. So when you see that type of a child, you need to get closer to the child, you need to understand and help the child to come out of that situation. Because if you don't help the child will graduate into other levels that will be very difficult to manage. We also have impaired concentration, a child who is never concentrating, or maybe just worried about situations, or you get into a classroom, maybe someone who teaches in a school, you get child is always distracted by one thing or the other. That child needs to be taken good attention of and help, and also that you help that child to become a better person, and also to relate well with his peers and with the people around him. We also have physical signs, which is sleep disturbance and insomnia. We have chronic pain or somatic complaints. We have headaches. We have stomach aches. We have eating disorders and all the like. So sometimes you discover that the child doesn't sleep well, and someone who has a sleep disturbance, sometimes in the night they don't really sleep well, and then during the day they begin to sleep, maybe in class or at a child-friendly space, or maybe in a gathering. You discover that the child is battling with sleep at that moment. And so when you get closer to the child and you begin to maybe talk with the child, you will now understand why the child is not sleeping well. What is this? What disturbs the child at night that he or she doesn't sleep well at night? So much so that he or she begins to battle with sleep when other children are carrying on other activities. You want to involve the child maybe in an activity, you discover that the child is really sleeping. So there is a problem at that level. We also have chronic pain. We have somatic complaints. We have headaches. The child continues to complain about a number of things that are disturbing them. Eating disorders, the child doesn't eat well, or the child eats too much. Yes, if a child is eating too much, it's a problem. And if a child doesn't eat well, it is also a problem. So we have to look out for those things. It is supposed to be balanced. Somebody has to eat, but it's supposed to be balanced. You're not supposed to eat excessively, or you're not supposed to eat less. So you're supposed to be balanced. So any child who is eating too much or eating less is having a kind of disorder that has to be looked into and managed well. We also have behavioral and relationship signs. We have social withdrawal and isolation. We have difficulty trusting others. We have attachment issues. We have aggressive or impulsive behavior. We've spoken about social withdrawal, we've spoken about isolation. Someone who has experienced trauma is most likely to go into isolation, because they see the world not to be unsafe. They see the environment, the society around them not to be safe. They see that it is not safe enough. They don't want to communicate with someone. They don't want to talk to someone. They don't want to share their challenges with someone. They find it also difficult to attach to the people around them. They don't want any attachment, because they feel like getting attached to someone is a kind of or is something that they should not do, because if they do that, they are going to go into maybe other situations that will be above them to handle, or they will be betrayed. Most of the times, people who are already getting into isolation or having these attachment issues, they feel that every other person around them is a betrayal, and that is why they don't want to to associate with anyone because they don't want to be betrayed in the long run. You see people who have been betrayed by their friends, betrayed by their family members, betrayed by their loved ones. They face a lot of attachment issues. That is why sometimes even with couples, it happens the same. Couples who have faced betrayal from their loved ones, they face attachment issues, as well as children too. Children have a way of trusting people, and when the moment the trust is or there is a kind of breach of trust or betrayal, you see that it is difficult for them to attach. We also have aggressive or impulsive behavior. Children get into aggressive behaviors or impulsive behaviors as a defensive mechanism. You see a child who is very aggressive, a child is struggling to defend his or herself because maybe he has had a situation, he has faced something that is not really good or is not really worth discussing. So they get into aggression in order to manage it. So at the end of the day, we get to meet all these children on our daily activities or on our daily works of lives, and we have to manage them with care so that we help these children to be able to relate with others well in the society, because that is the goal. If a child is not able to relate well with others in the society, it means that there is a deficiency, and so it has to be managed properly. So looking at trauma-informed care, what do we understand by trauma-informed care? World Health Organization and other partners like Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services and Service Administration says that trauma-informed care involves three main R's. We have realizing the widespread of trauma, recognizing the signs of trauma, and responding by avoiding re-traumatization. We've just looked at the signs of trauma. We've looked at the signs of trauma. We've said that we have emotional signs, we have physical signs, we have cognitive signs, we have behavioral signs. Those are the signs that you look at. And all these aspects that we've discussed already, you look at it you look at those to understand the signs of trauma, be it in a child or in an adult or in an elderly person. When you look at all these things, you'll be able to understand that, okay, this is trauma that somebody is going through. And after that, when you have recognized the signs of trauma, and now you respond by avoiding re-traumatization. So there are three things involved in trauma-informed care that we need to really take note of. We have realizing the widespread impact of trauma. The widespread impact of trauma, we looked at it in the first slide. We have looked at the signs of trauma and responding by avoiding re-traumatization. So the goal is that at the end of the day, while offering trauma-informed care to maybe a client, a survivor, you should not re-traumatize them. That is the goal of trauma-informed care. It shifts the focus from what's wrong with you to what happened to you. We have to also be very careful of the type of questions that we ask maybe survivors or victims of trauma. When you ask somebody what's wrong with you, sometimes somebody is going through a traumatic situation. They don't know what is happening with them. They cannot explain what is happening to them. They cannot really perceive, or they cannot really see what they have been through or what is going on with them at the moment. But when they say that, when you ask a question like what happened to you, they're able to explain their story, and from their story you'll be able to detect, you'll be able to understand that, okay, if this thing happened to somebody, let's take for instance someone who has been raped, and maybe the person is distressed because of that terrifying situation. Every moment she keeps having flashbacks. She doesn't really know what's happening to her at the moment. But now sometimes when you ask her what happened to you, she will be able to explain that, okay, this is what happened, this is how it happened. I was in this so and so place, and I met one who has experienced a rape situation. And for you to be able to manage a rape case, these are the things that you will do. But when you start asking questions like what's wrong with you, it is provocative sometimes, because the people who are going through trauma, the children who are experiencing trauma, they don't really understand what is going on within to drugs, or who has finally decided to consume drugs. You see that person, it is because the person does not really know what's happening to them, because if they knew, they'll be looking for better solutions. So when you ask questions, we have to be very careful with the types of questions we ask, especially to people who have experienced trauma, so that we will not end up maybe raising provocative questions or things that will, at the end of the day, re-traumatize the survivor or the clients. So we have to be very careful. And we also have to prioritize the physical, psychological, emotional, the physical, psychological, and emotional safety of both the clients and the staff. When you're working with someone for trauma-informed care, you have to prioritize the person's physical, the person's psychological, the person's emotional, the safety. It is very, very important. The environment where you work with somebody is very important. The kind of pictures that are around the environment, they are very important. Let me take, for instance, in a counseling room, if a client or a survivor comes into a counseling room and sees everything on your wall black, maybe you have just black pictures on your wall, or you have just red pictures on your wall, it has a lot that it speaks to the survivor. It speaks a lot it has a lot of messages that it passes to the clients. So you have to be very careful with the kind of pictures you place on your wall, especially when you're working with survivors of trauma. You have the kind of pictures you put on your wall, the kind of messages. It has a way of playing on the psychology of the survivor or the clients. We also have emotional safety. How safe are they with you as the staff emotionally? How safe are they with you physically? How safe are they with you psychologically? So you have to prioritize that. Now, what are the principles of trauma-informed care? We have 5 main basic principles of trauma-informed care. The first one is safety. The second one is trustworthiness. The third one is choice. The fourth one is collaboration. And the fifth one is empowerment. We've spoken about safety. Your environment where you're working with a trauma survivor or a client should be very safe. That means you should ensure the physical safety, the emotional safety, and in fact, everything that has to do with the general safety of that individual, as well as yours who is working with the survivor. You have to be safe. If there is anything that hinders safety at that particular moment, then that is not a safe space for you to work with that person. Someone who has experienced, let's take for instance the rape situation that we spoke about, and you carry the client or the survivor to that same environment, that is not a good environment for you to work with that person in, because it brings back memories. It brings back a lot of memories of what happened to him or her. So the environment, the physical safety, everything has to be put in place. You have to have a welcoming environment. You have to welcome diversity and inclusion. You have to think about the consequences and every other thing that you are using while working with a client. We talk about trustworthiness. You have to build that trust too with the clients before they're able to express themselves. They're able to express themselves. They're able to tell you what is going through them, what is happening within them. Because if that trust is not built, if that trust is not there, you will discover that nothing will be said. You may even ask them the right questions that you are supposed to ask, but nobody will answer because they lack that trust. They don't have that trust. So when working with a survivor, you have to build that trust first. That is one of the first things. You build the trust first before they're able to share their stories. Like we said, you don't ask questions like, what is wrong with you? You ask questions like, what happened to you? And before somebody opens up to you to share a story with you, before you help that person must trust you first. And the trust comes by you building it gradually. So you build trust by providing clear information about their expectations. Let's take, for instance, someone whose leg has been amputated, someone who has an amputated leg and is coming for counseling because they are going through trauma or they're experiencing trauma. because of that, because they have been their legs have been amputated. And then you are like maybe giving them information, like maybe after this session or after having sessions with you, you have your both legs back in place. It is not real, it is vague. So you have to give them clear information about that expectation. What should someone who is coming to you without situation be expecting? Should they be expecting to build up their self-esteem? Should they be expecting to build up to see the world the way it is? Or you should give them a kind of vague and maybe experience that they will not see it at the end of the day. If you do that at the end of the day, you have
I guess we have lost the speaker. Thank you for your patience. She will be joining soon.
hello everyone, can you get me?
Yes, ma'am, you're audible. The screen is about to share.
Can you all hear me, please?
Yes, ma'am, you're clearly
Yes, we
audible.
can.
Good evening to us all. It appears the network is not very friendly. So I don't know if I could be bringing in some little contribution while we wait for the mentor.
Sure, sir.
Okay, thank you. My name is Kemonto Gerard Nge, contributing from Cameroon. Maybe just a follow-up or a contribution to add on what the mentor was saying already. The questions we should ask the clients, that is the right word to call them, because most often some people don't really know how to call them, and they call them they could use names that are not very friendly, like this person is sick, this person is a patient, this person, and so on and so forth. And so the word client or survivor, it's the right word to use. And then you don't help a client to speak. Yeah, you don't have a client to tell you their stories. You don't contribute in their stories. Like somebody is saying, "Oh, I was raped," and then you say, "It's because of your dressing, the way you dress. Look at the short skirt that you are wearing. Your entire body is completely outside," and so on and so forth. And so you don't say that to a client. And then the next thing is, it's unfortunate we cannot do demonstrations because we are in a Zoom meeting. We cannot do demonstrations. There is a way you will attend to the client, and the client will gain confidence in you, and they will be able to express themselves freely. And then another thing too is you cannot be talking. If the mentor is back, then I can stop. Yeah, is the mentor back?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you so much for taking the floor. And since our mentor is back, so she will be taking it forward. I hope, ma'am, you
Okay,
are
thank you.
ready and we are able to see your screen. Thank you, sir, so much. Ma'am, your screen is visible.
Okay.
Can you hear us? Yes.
Okay, yes, I
Uh,
can get you 100%. Okay, I was talking about trustworthiness and uh, you give to a client or to a survivor is very important, because it will help them to be able to process it and also to trust you better. We also have choices. Making individual choice and control is priority, refers to the right to self-determination and autonomy. Others about options available to them. Flexibility while defining parameters. Reflect. So survivors have the right or the choice, have the right to make their choices. They have the right to choose when to talk, choose when to do whatever, choose when to share whatever they want to share to you. It is their choice. And so when you talk about the choice of a survivor or a client, you shouldn't be pressurizing them that, okay, you must say this, you must say that. And let's remember that it is a trauma situation that you as a staff or a worker or a psychologist or a mental health specialist, you are handling. And so that is something that has been disturbing them for a very long time. That is something that they've been going through. They have not been able to share it. They have not been able to assimilate it so well. So they have the choice of words, that choice of words that they're supposed to use. You must not force them to use whatever you want. You must not force them. You must not choose the area where you should have to work with them. If a survivor or a client decides that, okay, this is where I want to work with you, since your job is to help them come out of that situation, you have to help them in that area. Because sometimes when you force them to do what you want them to do without respecting their choices, at the end of the day, you don't get the desired result. At the end of the day, some just disappear into the thin air. You never get to hear from them. And at the end of the day, in what you are doing, it comes back to you. You become a failure. And mind you that the more lead to depression, it may lead to low self-esteem to you as a staff or a worker too as well. So you have to be very careful, because you can be working with a trauma client or survivor. At the end of the day, you discover that you are getting into trauma or you're getting into low self-esteem because you've not had the desired objective that you had or you were hoping to have at the end of maybe the sessions you've had with them, maybe at the end of your working time with them, you've not had them. So it makes you start feeling like you are incompetent, or it makes you start feeling like you are not qualified enough to do that job. So you have to set clear goals. You have to respect the choices of the survivor, so that it makes you to be able to stay put. Working together with individuals, the idea of working with, not working to or for. We have to be very careful with this. You are not working, you have to share power. You have to work with the survivor. Working with the survivor means collaborating with the survivor, discussing issues with survivor, having that mutual understanding with the survivor. Ask for feedback from the survivor. How are you feeling? What do you think? Or what do you think we can do so that you get better? Sometimes we find ourselves in situations where we get to impose on the clients that, okay, this is what you should do. This is what it is very wrong. It is a very wrong practice when you, as maybe a psychologist or a mental health specialist, you're working with a survivor and you begin to tell them what to do. You are not collaborating. So you have to collaborate with them. You have to discuss with them. So at this point, what do you think we can do? Let it come from them, because when it comes from them, when it comes from a survivor, they are most likely to work with it. But when you start bringing it what you think or what you know that is best for them, at the end of the day, they are doing what fits you and not what fits them. So we have to be very careful to and give them the opportunity opportunities to share their feedbacks, okay, this is what I feel, this is how I think we should go from here. It will help you and it will help the survivor as well. We also have empowerment. Working with survivors, you need to empower them. Imagine a girl who has maybe been raped as a teenager. The girl has dropped out of school. The girl does not have a source of income. The girl does not know where to start from. The girl does not have a supportive family. The girl does not have a social network that she can look up to and maybe at the end of the day become better. So you can also look for a way to empower this young girl so that she becomes a better person in the society. You can build strength through counseling sessions. You can build capacity through educative sessions, and sometimes and skills too as well. We have what we call the women and girls safe space. Where I work, we have what we call the women and girls safe space. In the women and girls safe space, we do what we do. We call empowerment, using strength-based approach, where we look at your strength. We want to understand what your strengths are, what we can do and girls who come to the safe space. Women and girls who come to the safe space, they learn some few things that it can help them to raise income by themselves. In our society, we have people who can learn how to make peanuts, people who can learn how to do dresses, people who can learn how to do cookery, just at the women and girls safe space. And these are people who have experienced trauma in one way or the other. These are people who have experienced GBV. We know that someone who is experiencing GBV or has experienced GBV and the case is not well handled, the person may go into trauma. Most of the times in our women and girls safe space, we work with women and children who are experiencing who have experienced gender-based violence. Space, we have a lot of girls who have experienced rape, who have experienced early pregnancy, and which were not necessarily rape, but it was a kind of early pregnancy, and they've dropped out of school. They don't have any source of income. They don't have anything. Likely to come out of the trauma, because they will now focus on what is helping them to become better and stop thinking about the past situation that was bringing them trauma. So we will now be looking at the strategies for monitoring and healing children after abuse. Strategies for monitoring and healing children after abuse. We have ensure safety and stability. Provide a safe, predictable environment, that is home, school, care setting. We have limit exposure to further stress or triggers. Maintain consistent routines to build trust and security. A child who has been through abuse, a child who has experienced abuse, has a lot of things that is going on through them. So we have to build a kind of safety. We have to work with them in a safe environment. We have to provide for them a home that is safe and they can be able to share their emotions to one another. So we have schools, we have homes. In the school setting, we can set up an area like that. We also have what we call the child-friendly spaces. Those are environments that are so friendly for children, and children come there, they learn, they express themselves, they play, just to get out of maybe the trauma or the situation that they've experienced, the abuse that they've experienced. Just being in that environment, security and safety guarantee. We also have access to professional support. Refer the child to trauma-focused therapy. That is a play therapy. We have play therapy. Just by playing with other children or just by relating with other children will help the child to boost the child's self-esteem. Maybe the child has experienced trauma, the child has experienced whatever, and knowing that there is no wall around him or nothing surrounds them, but be able to relate back and function normally with other people in the society. We also have the cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a combination of a lot of things. We have empowerment, we have a lot more that comes with cognitive behavioral therapy. So when we use that, it's going to help the child too a lot. Involve trained psychologists or counselors for regular sessions. Regular sessions are very important because it helps to in follow-up. When you start working with somebody or with a child, it is not something that you do in a day and it ends just like that. You have to do maybe 1-2 sessions, like the normal recommendation that we have, our standard in our organization. You should have at least 6 sessions with a survivor before you can really assess that you've worked with a survivor well. At the cyclops, how the child is able to grow, how the child has been able to improve maybe from one stage to another through the cyclops rating, and you'll be able to understand this better. But if someone who is maybe a psychologist or a counselor, the person will not be able to know what to do per se, and maybe the person can just be advising the child and not giving the child the proper therapy that the child needs in order to get out of it smoothly. We also have offer medical care if there are physical effects of abuse. A child who is raped immediately will obviously need a PEP kit. A PEP kit, that is the maybe of the medical situation. If the child had bruises, through the PEP kit administration, the child can be able to come out of it successfully. If maybe the child got into maybe some type of terrible wounds, they can work with the child using the PEP kit so that the child comes out of it successfully. So those are professional supports. That is the kind of professional support that a child should be receiving at that moment. And it is an encouragement to all of us that when you get to meet a child who is facing this, you look at yourself, you know where you can intervene, you intervene. Then where you cannot intervene, you refer. We have psychologists, we have health personnel. There are things that only health personnel can handle. A child who is having wounds and bleeding, a psychologist cannot help the child at that particular time. The first person that the child needs at that particular moment is the medical personnel, a nurse, a doctor, so that the person attends to the child. After that, the psychologist can take over from there and start working with the child. So each of us have our domain of intervention. And whenever you're working with a child and you discover that this domain is not your own domain, you refer to the next domain so that the child can be properly helped out of that situation. We also have ongoing monitoring. Observe the changes in the behavior, emotions, sleep, appetite, or performances. We've spoken about like you have to work with someone at least for a number of sessions, that is 6 sessions. And when you're working with this survivor for this number of times, it will help you to be able to monitor the behavior changes. It will help you to monitor the sleep changes. It will help you to monitor the performance changes. It will help you to monitor the appetite changes, and every change that is occurring in the child. You'll be able to monitor them from the way you are working. But if you have just a single session with a client or a survivor, you will not be able to monitor all of this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sessions is enough for you to be able to monitor this. Since it is not something that you do today, you do tomorrow, you always have tasks and goals that you want to achieve at the end of each session. And you also set goals that, okay, by the end of this month or by the end of 2 months, you should have been able to get to this level. So within that time frame, you are able to monitor these changes. You are able to observe to see whether there is an improvement or not, or you need to change the strategy as well. You also have to use simple child-friendly assessment tools to up tools. We have so many tools that we can use. We have so many tools that we can use in order to be able to track this changes in children. We also have to keep confidential records of incidents, therapy sessions, and milestones. This is very important. All of us should take note of this particular aspect, confidentiality. Confidentiality is very important, especially when you're working with somebody. When you're working with somebody and the person is so sure that the information that they share with you is going to be kept confidential, they are able to express
Ma'am, we can't hear you. Thank you, participants, for the patience. You can drop your questions till the speaker voice is connecting back. Miss Booty, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I can get you, Kelly.
Yes. Miss Booty, since it is your sub-department of this fellowship and department, so you can tell our participants that what was your objective of choosing this as your project uh, title or objectives, if you would like to share, and even if your fellow WACO fellows can share till the speaker is reconnecting us.
Okay, she seems to be reconnecting already. But if she doesn't, then we will share that.
Sure. Yes, sure,
Okay.
sure.
Can you all hear me, please?
Yes, ma'am, you're
Yes, we can hear
clearly
you, ma'am.
audible.
Okay, sorry about my network. Okay, I was talking about confidentiality and records of incidents. We have to know that confidentiality is very important, and you need to always remind the survivor or the client of the confidentiality. And it is not just about reminding them, it is about keeping the confidentiality, keeping information confidential. There is this principle of confidential, that no information that you share with a staff is being shared to another person, or information is only shared on need to know basis. We call that need to know basis. That means it is, if there is an information that you need to share with somebody, only share the part that is supposed to be known by to another person with the consent of the survivor. With the consent of the survivor. So if the survivor gives you the go ahead to share the information, because maybe you saw that, okay, there is a service that maybe another institution or maybe another person can handle that you're not able to handle. Remember very well, if you want to share institution, you must first of all explain the person's story, so that they'll be able to offer the services that they really need to offer to that person. So what you do is that you share information on need to know basis. It's not everything that the survivor shared with you that you will take it and you share to the next person. That you share it to the next person. But if the survivor has given you information, you need to share it on what we call need to know, and with the consent of the survivor. So we have to be very careful. A lot of things that betray trust with clients and staff, or clients and their workers, is when they tell you a story and the next thing they are hearing it somewhere, or they begin to hear it from another person. It betrays trust, and at the end of the day, you will not be able to relate well with the clients or with the person you are working with to help them come out of trauma or abuse. We also have empowerment. We've spoken about empowerment, giving them life skill, giving them capacity building that will help them to be able to become better. We also have like giving them maybe capacity building and allowing them to have control and confidence, validate their emotions, and avoid the blame or shame. Somebody who has experienced rape, you begin to blame the person. Okay, what happened to you? Maybe you ask that question, they tell you the story that I was in so and so place, maybe at night, and out of the sudden I was raped. You begin to say, what were you doing there? What carried you to this type of place? And who sent you to this place, first of all, before? Those are blames that you are never supposed to say to a client or a survivor, because they already have a lot that they are handling. And if they've come to you, it's because they feel that you are someone who can help them come out of this. And if you begin to judge them again, maybe like any other member in the community or in the society, at the end of the day, it will not help them. We also have family and caregiver involvement. Provide parenting support and training to caregivers. Promote healthy attachments through nurturing relationships. Involve caregivers in the healing plan where appropriate. Now, you provide parenting support and trainings to caregivers. We have positive parenting sessions that we usually carry out maybe with parents of the children that we have at the child-friendly spaces. Positive parenting sessions where we train parents on how to handle their children, on how to relate with their children back at home. We also have parents of separated unaccompanied children. Those are foster parenting. We also work with foster parenting, foster parents, to train them on how to stay with unaccompanied and separated children. You know, sometimes when you're staying with a child who is not actually your child per se, it is usually very difficult, or your biological child, it is very difficult. So when we have unaccompanied and separated children in the homes of foster parents, we also train them caregivers in order to stay well and relate with them. We also promote or involve caregivers in healing plan where appropriate. Remember, I spoke about need to know. If the caregiver has to know something about the child, or if the parents need to know something about the child, it should only be done when it is appropriate, because there are informations that the children give to you and they are not really ready for you to share it with their parents or caregivers. So you only get to share this information when it is appropriate with the consent of the child. Always remember that it is with the consent of the child. You ask the child that, okay, this thing that you told me about, that we discussed about, that we've been working on, can I tell your parents? Can I share with your parents, so that I also work with your parents to see that people are able to relate well at the level of the home? If the child says no, it is okay. They have the right to their choices and their decision. So you shouldn't force, or you shouldn't say something without the consent of the person you are working with. We also have school and community support. Train teachers and community workers to recognize trauma symptoms, coordinate support with schools to help with learning and social skills, create safe spaces in the community for play and interaction. Almost in all the sessions that we've been having here, or the sessions that you've been having with me, we've spoken about community support, school support, that is training teachers, training community members on how to recognize trauma symptoms. Remember, we spoke about the symptoms. How do you recognize the symptoms of trauma in a child? When you train somebody, or a community worker, or a community support staff on this, they're able to recognize, and when they recognize that, okay, this child has signs and symptoms of trauma, they'll be able to refer to the psychologist or to a mental health specialist that can help the child to become better. We also have cultural sensitivity and dignity. Respect the child's background, language, and beliefs during care. Avoid re-traumatizing or invasive approaches. Re-traumatizing, we remember in the definition of trauma-informed care, the main thing we're talking about is that we should avoid re-traumatizing the survivor or the client. We need to re-traumatize, we need to avoid it as much as possible when working with somebody, because you may be working with somebody, and at the end of the day, the words that you use, the kind of language that you use, the type of things you say to the person ends up re-traumatizing the person instead of helping the person to come out of the trauma. Now, we look at the importance of early identification, that is empathy, and supportive environment in helping children rebuild trust and resilience. You know that when somebody has gone through trauma or has experienced a terrifying situation, the person is most likely to lose trust, the person is no longer resilient. And so when we look at early identification, when there is early identification, empathy, and supportive environment, these children or these individuals are able to successfully come out of it when they are being helped by specialists or professionals. So we talk about early identification, detect trauma signs early, withdrawal, aggression, fear. So these are the signs that you can look or you can see in someone, and you'll be able to say, okay, these are signs and symptoms of trauma. And when you are able to identify them early enough, you will help the person prevent long-term emotional and behavioral problems. When you identify early, it prevents these early and long-term emotional or behavioral problems. Also helps professionals and caregivers create targeted support plans. Early identification helps professionals to create targeted plans and support plans based on the person's need, on the child's need, on the survivor's needs. It also encourages early healing. When trauma is identified at the early stage, it will not grow into, and at the end of the day, you are able to handle the situation easily. But when it is not identified early, it grows into situations that will be very difficult or challenging to handle. So we also have empathy. Empathy makes the child feel heard, it makes the child feels valued, it makes the child feels understood. That is what empathy does. It makes the child feels heard. When the child feels that, okay, I am being heard, somebody is listening to me. That is what we call empathy.
It seems our speaker got a bit disrupted again. Hopefully she will connect back with us very soon. For now, can we just be patient?
I was talking about empathy.
Yes,
Feels
ma'am.
heard, that the child feels like, okay, somebody is listening to me. Hello.
Yes,
Hello,
ma'am, you're
ma'am.
audible and your presentation is visible. You can proceed.
Hello, Madam Ruth. Our speaker seems to be facing a lot of network issues. So while we're waiting for her, I can just highlight a bit about why we chose this topic for today.
Hello. Can you hear
Hello,
me,
ma'am.
please?
Okay, you're
Yes,
back.
please.
Yes.
Okay, please. I'll just please my laptop is I'm having a challenge connecting to my laptop. I will just be talking with this other device. When it's connected, I can share my screen.
Okay, ma'am, no
Sure,
problem.
ma'am. Without screen also it would go fine. You can proceed. Thank you.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Ma'am, you can proceed without the presentation. We are able to hear
Okay.
you.
Okay, I was talking about empathy, and that empathy makes the child to feel that he is heard. The child feels that he is valued. The child feels that he is understood. It also builds emotional safety, which is key to rebuilding trust. It helps caregivers respond with patience rather than punishments. We also have it encourages children to express feelings without fear of judgment and shame or rejection. So each time a child feels that I am heard, or each time a child feels that I am valued, a child feels that people are listening to me, the child will become more confident in what he or she is doing. The child becomes more confident in what he or she is doing. And at the end of the day, the child becomes a better person because he is sure and he's so much aware that somebody is listening to them and somebody is able to help them in their situations, to come out of their challenging situations well and on time too as well. So if a child is not being heard, if a child is not being listened to, the child may get into depression, the child may get into a lot of challenges that will be difficult to handle. We also have supportive environments. You provide stability and consistency in helping the child feel secure. You create space or safe spaces for positive to take note of the fact that it has to model love, respect, and care. There are societies or there are communities where children are not respected. Children are being treated with less attention because they feel that they don't have anything to contribute into the community or the society. So when the child feels that he or she is not respected or he or she is not being valued in the society, the child will normally not uh, relate well with others in the community. The child will normally not relate well in the community or the society. Okay. So we have to foster confidence, hope, and working with these children.
Ma'am, actually, we are hearing an echo from your side. Yes.
Hello, ma'am. We can see your screen, but we can't get you.
So, sorry, I was talking about creating a supportive environment, a safe space. When we look at the picture on our screen, we see children relating with their child protection staff or someone who is working with them. That is an environment where children are able to express themselves, they are able to talk. And you as the child or someone, child support staff, you also have to bring yourself to the level of the children in order to work with them well. If the children are sitting down, you also have to sit down with them. If they're standing up, you also have to work with those children in order for them to be able to to understand well what you are telling them to do. So that is that. We have advocating for children's well-being. Advocating for children's well-being means promoting their rights, safety, health, and development. We've spoken about the rights of the children, we've spoken about the health of the children, we've spoken about the safety of the children. And so for us to advocate, we need to start by awareness raising. Remember, in all the sessions we've had to stop on daily basis. And remember that awareness raising is not just once. Awareness raising is not just done once and it is okay. When you want to raise awareness, it is a kind of continuous process for you to be able to give people the information or to teach people the values that you want them to understand. Sometimes you raise awareness in a community. Today you meet a different group of persons. Tomorrow you get to meet another group of persons. So awareness raising has to be continuous, so much so that people are able to learn and understand this right, safety, and health, so in order to help their children develop properly. We also have child support friendly policies, push for stronger laws and systems that protect children from abuse, neglect, and exploitation. We also have engaged the government or non-governmental organizations to improve services in health, education, and mental education, empower children with skills, knowledge, capacity buildings in order to help them to also become better. We have provide support, promote access to healthcare, education, counseling. You can do this by referral. You can do this just by maybe kind of voluntary services to work with children to help them become better, be it in schools, be it in churches. We also have trained adults who work with children. By training adults who work with children, it will help them to perform or to give better services to their children. People like social workers. Hello, everyone.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, please, can you hear me?
Yes, we can get you clearly.
Okay, I'm rounding up and power just went off, so my device can no longer work again. So we'll just continue here. Okay, I was talking about our providing support, training adults who work with children. Those are people like social workers, building safe environments like the child-friendly space. Friendly in nature, so much so that each child that comes there will feel safe in that environment. You have collaborating with others, like partners with other organizations, partnering with legal bodies, partnering with faith leaders, maybe like churches, community heads, and other groups in the society in order to help the children to become better. Conclusively, a combination of emotional support, professional help, and healthy coping strategy. Advocacy is a combination of action, education, policy, and compassion. So all of us who are working with children, we have to know that advocacy is prime, and we have to always advocate because there are a lot of people who are experiencing trauma, and due to that, due to maybe what they face, they are not able to come out, they are not able to say it, and they launch into difficult thoughts that can just lead to death. So we have to keep on advocating. The more we advocate, the more we help them become better. Thank you very much. Questions and answers is up now. Sorry, I will not be able to see it, but someone can read, then we go through it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if I can come in.
Just wait a bit,
Thank
sir.
you. So
Okay.
do that.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Ruth, for that deeply moving and insightful session. You've highlighted the importance of compassion, patience, and advocacy in helping children heal after abuse. Your words reminds us that trauma-informed care is not just a method; it is a mindset and a movement. And so, like Mrs. Ruth like rightly said, we are opening the floor for your questions, and let's keep the conversation flowing. Please, you can
Uh,
ask your
so the
questions.
so the participants who have the questions, please kindly unmute yourself for swift communication. So I'll start with me. So first of all, thank you a lot, ma'am. Though because of the technical difficulties, you have not get it affected the content of your presentation, and I really appreciate on that part. So I just wanted to ask, what do you think that what kind of healing is more important, the physical healing or the emotional healing of a child who has been traumatized? Because obviously both are equally important, but I just wanted to know your perspective on that thing, if you can throw some light on the same.
Okay, thank you very much for your question. Like you rightly said, both are important. But now, when working with a child, you look at the one that looks like emergency at the moment. Sometimes the healing or the physical healing is the one that is an emergency and needs to be handled at the moment. And sometimes it, for instance, someone who has been raped and is bleeding, someone who has been raped and is bleeding at the moment, what the person needs is not emotional healing. The person needs physical healing first. So you take the person to the hospital while they're administering maybe the pep kits to the person, to the individual. After that, before you can start maybe giving that person psychological counseling so that the person can be stable. Depends on the situation, and you treat the situation based on the emergencies of that situation. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, ma'am, for answering that questions. I guess everybody is appreciating for your things, and we have lost the questions. So I would request Miss Bodhi or the moderator for today to please kindly go forward for the vote of thanks, since we have another session lined up. And once again, the speaker for today, thank you a lot for putting in so much efforts for delivering a very essential topic, because it is very essential to uh, keep our youth or the young generation, because they are the future of our every nation or the world. And their healing is a very important thing, because they have unhealed parents, unhealed workplaces for people, and it is really essential, the topic we have discussed today. And thank you a lot, ma'am. Miss Budi, the stage is over you.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am. Mr. Jara was
Okay, thank
about
you.
saying something, so I hope
It is just
his question was answered. Yes, Mr. Jara, you
no.
can round off fast enough. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. It's just a contribution, maybe a way to answer one of the questions.
Mr.
It's
Jara,
in
we
normal.
can't.
Yes, Miss Pooty, can you please move towards vote of thanks? Since there is connectivity issue from...
I think, ma'am, I think she has network issues too.
Oh, sure, dear, you can proceed for the vote of thanks.
Okay. Once more, thank you very much, Mrs. Ruth, for that deeply moving and insightful session. You have highlighted the importance of compassion, patience, and advocacy in helping children heal after abuse. Your words reminds us that trauma-informed care is not just a method, it is a mindset and a movement. We are really grateful for the insightful session. Please, once more, the floor is open for questions. Let's keep the conversation flowing. I think Mr. Gerard's hand was up. I don't know if he can hear us.
Yes, I'm back. The network issues in Cameroon really very difficult for us, but we are trying to be part of this. It is a wonder. It was a wonderful session. First of all, I want to say thank you to the mentor and of course the moderator for choosing this topic. And another thing that I would like to thank the mentor. Usually, this topic takes us like a week to present it, but she has touched. She ran the topic for a couple of hours, and I really want to say kudos, thank you for that. It has equally helped me to pick up my notebooks and dust them, and to get back to this wonderful topic. Thank you again. Like she was saying, we should be able to identify what the client needs at that particular moment, because a client cannot come to you with a wound, a very big wound on his or her leg, and then you are rushing to buy new t-shirts, new dresses to give to that client. That is not what that client needs at that particular moment. We had cases where some people had to get the wrong information. A pregnant woman, after a traumatized session, comes to you with a pregnancy, and you are giving her a bag of rice, or you are giving her cocoyams, or you are giving her yams as assistance. That is not how it is done. And then lastly, so that I don't take too much time, we should be able to refer we should know the pathway of doing the referencing, that's to refer cases. Make sure you don't let a client know that you are capable of doing all of that. You know, a client who comes and needs counseling, and then you say, no, you are the counselor. A client who comes and say, I have a wound and I need treatment. You say, no, you are a nurse, you can treat that. A client who comes and say, like the example we took last time, people who left the northwest region of Cameroon, where we've had the ongoing situation, they moved to the other regions where it is safer. It is safer to them, and children start seeing uniform officers and running away. Whereas that's not what used to happen before. People used to see uniform officers and walk to them for safety. But children now see uniform officers, they run and say, oh, let's run, thinking that they are going to be hurt. Whereas those are, in that light, you need to start teaching these children to know that the uniform officer is there for their security and they need to get to them. And so that is another form of the trauma that we think other sessions could help us talk to ourselves and equally explain those things to us. Then lastly, we don't know it all. We don't know it all. And the worker-client relationship states that we should be able to identify where we have security challenges. You know, when a client is coming in, there is a way you sit to receive that client. There is a way you will talk to that client. And you cannot be talking to a client that is trying to help a client and you are manipulating your phone. You know, like as a worker, talking to the client and manipulating your phone takes away the confidence, and the client will not open up to you. Or talking to a client and talking to your neighbor or a friend or a colleague at the same time, that client will not have confidence in you. And you want to talk to a client, they say there is a way you do it. You sit in your office, furnished office, there is a chair, there is a seat for you, and there is another seat for the client, but the door should be half open. You don't close, you don't block the door when you are talking to a client, because you don't know where the client is coming from and the temperament of the client. And then to conclude, you have to let your colleague know the things that the client have asked you to say to the colleague, unless it's the referral part. If you are using the referral pathway, then you are able to say, no, this next person that I'm sending you to, it's the person who is going to take care of this particular aspect of the problems that you have. And then the another thing too, when you are talking to a client, when a client is talking to you, you don't help the client to talk. And you don't cry along with the client when the client is crying. Like a client is talking to you and crying, and you are crying along with the client, you have already spoiled that confidence that has to exist between you, the worker, and the client. That was just what I wanted to add. And I say thank you once more to the mentor, for she's been able to trash that topic. It's a very difficult topic, and so she did it well. Thank you again for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you, sir,
Thank you.
for sharing your insights. And once again, on behalf of Whole Woman Ascension, I would like to thank our mentor come speaker today for sharing her insights on such a critical topic, and in a very like a guided and a concise way, with enough example and elaboration. Thank you a lot, ma'am. We have been always pleasure to
What I
have
say?
you on board. We are always pleasure to have you on board, and we will surely be looking forward to you for our future sessions also. And thank you for all the participants, those who have been stayed still back in spite of the extension of the time and the technical difficulties. We really appreciate your efforts, and especially to the fellow who has had taken over the stage in the period of gaps, and also one of the participant who has been interactive. Thank you a lot, ma'am. The session is officially over. The room is free to leave. Thank you. Hope to see you in the future sessions, and make sure that you take this message and do implement it, because healing begins with yourself and your surrounding. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mm.